Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. So today we are looking at captive portal and how we can capture captive portal authentication on the wire. So I have a very simple setup over here. The NAT is giving Pfsense access to internet and this is my local segment. Forget about this network. I'm connecting to this switch to my management station so that I can get access to internet. So without wasting much time, let me show you that I've configured captive portal and it's running. And so this is my captive portal and these are the configurations over here. So for the authentication, we can use a local database to authenticate where we create a user on Pfsense, or we can use vouchers. And I've already created a voucher list where we can issue the voucher to guests who access your network. So the voucher is here. I did a printout and here are the voucher list. So I've already exhausted the limit that I have on these two vouchers. So I will currently test this one. So I'll copy the voucher code and I come to start use services. Okay, I'll go to vouchers, yes, and yes, test voucher. Okay, so let me look at something. Captive portal. Okay, so here is it. So I'm going to test the voucher code. So test, and as you can see, the code is still active. So it's valid for 5 minutes, right? So now heading on to my DHCP server, it's telling me that we have this IP address leased to a client. So this is my client over here. And if I type ifconfig, I'm going to see the IP address, which is the same as the IP address being leased. Okay, so before we begin, I'm going to start a capture on this interface. Okay, so let me minimize the terminal, and as you can see, it's telling us to open the network for login. So we have to authenticate on the network before we get access to internet. And let me test if Pfsense has access to internet. So I will test facebook.com. I'll select the one interface and I'll select ping. And as you can see, we have a response. So let's test the LAN interface too. So LAN 2 is working. That means we can connect to the internet. Okay. So now the capture is running. As you can see, packets are flowing through. So now let me go to my client and now let me authenticate. So we have our captive portal over here. So for the first authentication, we can choose to use a local authentication. For the second authentication, we can choose to have a remote authentication server like Active Directory or whatever. But then here, due to the video, I'm using a voucher code, and we are going to see how to capture the voucher code on the network. So I will key in the voucher code and I'll click on login. And as you can see, it has authenticated, right? So now we have access to internet. So we can just key in youtube.com and YouTube will open. As you can see, YouTube has now opened. So now we have access to internet. So when you go to the Pfsense and you go to start use captive portal, we'll get to see which voucher is active and the remaining time that particular voucher has. So it's still loading. Okay, so let me check my client. Now my client has access to internet. Okay, it's still loading. The internet is quite slow. So I'm waiting for Pfsense to finish loading. Okay, so I'm going to stop the capture and wait for Pfsense. Let's head on to the captured file, and let's see if we can see the voucher code in plain text. So I have a filter here called HTTP clear text, and the request type is post. Now, one thing that you should notice is that mostly people configure captive portal with HTTP. They forget to configure captive portal with HTTPS. From personal experience, I've seen a lot of people. So now we are searching for HTTP request where the method is post. So now I have a perfect example over here. So I can open this one. This is the header on top of TCP, and what do you see? We have HTML form URL encoded, and as you can see, this is the authentication voucher. You see, so on the page we had add user one pass, which was the first section for either the local authentication or the remote, and then we also had the second section, and then we had the voucher section where we key in the voucher, and then this is the voucher. So there are many ways someone can tap into your network and capture all this traffic, either through port mirroring, poor security configuration on access switches, and man in the middle attacks. And if you fail to, there are even scenarios where you go to companies where they don't even use Cisco switches or managed switches. Their switches are just open switches and they are running captive portal with HTTP. This will expose your network for even someone to perform man in the middle attack, sniff traffic, and then get access of these codes. So thanks for watching this video, and see you in my next video. Now let me see if Pfsense is up and running. I think it took a while. So start this captive portal, active vouchers, and as you can see, this is the voucher code, and it has expired. It's 5 minutes and it has expired. So looking at this, as you can see, this is the same voucher code that we had over here. Okay, so see you in my next video.